Still at large, still armed and dangerous. The search is on in multiple states for Austin Drummond. He's wanted for allegedly killing a family of 4 and leaving a 7-month-old child alone in front of a stranger's house. We also learned today, just in the last few hours, a third person was arrested, accused of helping Drummond after the murders. We're also learning more about Drummond's background, including the dire warning from prosecutors when he was up for parole. Allegations that he was ready to seek out jurors from his previous trial when he was freed from prison. We're on the case, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Right now, authorities in Tennessee are offering more than $17,000 for information that leads to the arrest of Austin Drummond. Here is the flyer put out by the U.S. Marshals who are looking for Drummond as we speak. He is on Tennessee's most wanted list. Now, we learned at the time that Drummond allegedly killed 4 people who were found in Lake County, Tennessee, that he was out on bond on a charge of attempted murder. That was related to an incident that happened while he was in prison. His Facebook shows that he just got out of prison in September of last year after serving more than a decade related to his conviction in a case where he held up a convenience store in Jackson, Tennessee, north of Memphis. Before I get into more about the warnings that are now very loud in hindsight about his behavior and just how dangerous he is, let's talk about this specific case and how we got to this point. On July 29th in Dyer County, Tennessee, police say they received a 911 call from a person who found a baby alive in their car seat, abandoned on the front of their home. The caller had never seen this baby before. They had no idea who they were. All of this happening on Tuesday around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then about 5 hours later, about 45 minutes north of where the baby was found in Lake County, Tennessee, this is around 8 o'clock at night, 4 bodies were found. They were allegedly murdered by this man, Austin Drummond. The bodies were of Courtney Rose, Matthew Wilson, Adriana Williams, and Braden Williams. Braden, who you see in the bottom right there, just 15 years old. He was the uncle of the baby found in the front yard. The parents of that baby who was found in the front yard, they are also dead. Matthew Wilson and Adriana Williams. Courtney Rose was the maternal grandmother of that child. Drummond is the person who police say is responsible. Investigators say they have warrants charging him with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of aggravated kidnapping. Also, he's facing 4 counts of possession of a firearm and 1 count of possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony. Police are not saying what the official causes of death are at this point, but we do want to note that there are firearms charges that Drummond is facing in relation to this. Now, police have not given us the timeline either of when they say they believe these crimes happened. In a news conference on Friday, though, Tennessee investigators did say that leaving the baby on the front lawn of a home was seen as, in their words, a sign of compassion, allegedly by Drummond, after the murders of that family of 4. So we do believe that these 4 murders took place. Then Drummond allegedly went south and dropped that baby in Dyer County, Tennessee. Police say that Drummond has a family connection to the victims, but they haven't gone further into that. It's also unclear where Drummond is right now. Over the weekend, authorities in a Missouri town, which is right over the border from Tennessee, posted that they are investigating claims that Drummond was spotted there. Drummond is a career criminal. He was convicted of holding up a convenience store in 2013 in Jackson, Tennessee. That night, he got away with just $44. That's it. But he pointed a gun in the face of the clerk and he was sentenced to more than a decade in prison. And even though he was in prison, what has been a very bizarre part of this story is just how active on social media it seems he was from behind bars. I mean, he posted these pictures showing him eating pizza. There were pictures of him playing video games. He also had multiple cell phones, it seems. And then even this picture from 2023 with a bottle of Ciroc vodka. On social media in September of last year, he posted that he was out, but don't let that smile fool you. His legal issues were still piling up. He's facing a charge of attempted murder right now related to an incident that happened in prison, and he was released on bond. In 2020, in response to Drummond being up for parole then, the district attorney for the 26th District of Tennessee wrote that Drummond had 25 disciplinary actions against him while in prison, including refusing orders, drug possession, defiance, and being in possession of a deadly weapon, all from behind bars. She also writes that after his conviction, Drummond told his dad in a phone call that he would target jurors and the victim in his robbery case, saying, quote, "They are going to regret it," and quote, "I'll be out one day." Now he is on the run, but it is unclear why he allegedly targeted the victims in this quadruple murder. Another key part of that letter against releasing Drummond on parole is what it says about his gang affiliation. The DA says that Drummond is a member of the Vice Lords, which is a well-known, dangerous gang that started in Chicago, but it has spread to cities nationwide. We know that Drummond has allegedly had help. After the 4 murders, now 3 people are facing charges. The first is a man named Tanaka Brown. He is facing a charge of accessory after the fact of first-degree murder. Here's his picture in his Facebook page. Investigators haven't said specifically what they believe he did, but he's being held without bond. Similar situation for a man named Giovante Thomas. He is charged with accessory after the fact of first-degree murder, and he was already in jail at the time of his arrest. And then today, on Monday, a third person was arrested on that same charge, accessory after the fact to first-degree murder. Her name is Diara Sanders, and she is also under arrest for allegedly helping Drummond. I typed Austin Drummond's name into TruthFinder.com. Not a surprise, his criminal record came up. We saw the aggravated robbery on there. Really lines up with the court records that we've pulled, seeing that he is truly a career criminal. At Law&Crime, we partner with TruthFinder, and we use it to get details on the people involved in our stories. But hey, even if you don't work in true crime like us, it can be a great resource to give you some peace of mind, as it is one of the largest public record search services in the United States. And with the paid subscription service, you get access to unlimited reports about almost anyone. And right now, you can get 50% off your first month of confidential background reports. Just go to truthfinder.com/OTC. Anyone with information on where Austin Drummond is located is urged to contact the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Their tip line is 1-800-TBI-FIND. Joining us now is Burton S. Staggs, investigative reporter, and you can find him at The Staggering Truth on social media. He has been covering this case from the very beginning. Thanks for being with us. Where are you right now? What is it like to be on the ground there in Western Tennessee?
I'm in Lake County, Tiptonville, approximately a mile and a half from where the bodies were discovered and the vehicles were discovered.
What's the mood when you go around that area, especially since this search began? I mean, what's it like to talk to people who live in this part of the state?
Well, you can tell they're anxious and concerned, and just spoke with some people over at the courthouse, and they're all saying the same things. This kind of thing doesn't happen here. They've had a few murders over the last 30 or 40 years, but you can count them on one hand.
How would you characterize, because it seems like just from the news conference that even though TBI has put out Austin Drummond's face and we've learned a good bit about his criminal history, there's still certain details that they're not releasing to the public. Just having covered these agencies, what does that tell you about where we are in this case?
I think it's they're keeping a lot close to the vest, because I think there's things they don't want the public to know, and not in a nefarious way, but rather in a let's keep this close to the vest. Let's just get this guy under wraps. Let's try not to push him any further. One of the comments at the presser was, you showed an act of compassion by dropping the baby. Let's get you in here. I think that's just a call to kind of say, let's try to end this without further bloodshed.
And Austin Drummond, I mean, he has a pretty lengthy criminal record for only being, in his 20s, but he gets out, it seems like, in September 2024. What else stands out to you about his background as you've been looking into his history?
Violence. There's violence and large-scale drug dealing. It's pretty obvious that he is definitely a violent person with no sense of remorse.
No, and he had more than 2 dozen like infractions, at least in 2020. I saw in the parole letter from the district attorney saying he shouldn't have been let out then, which he wasn't, from his time in prison. He's also a member of this gang, the Vice Lords, which I know have they're active kind of in the Memphis area. Um, has anybody told you anything about that? About like just what? And now that we know multiple people have been arrested for allegedly helping him, just like some of these associates that he has.
It just came up in chatter that, he was associated or was a vice lord, things like that. It also came up with, I'm sure some of your viewers are familiar with one of our notorious prisons here, Trousdale Turner. It's more towards East Tennessee. And there's an investigation into Austin Drummond over there for taking or getting drugs into that prison, as told to us by one of the law enforcement in that area.
And as far as the victims in this case, and I know right now there's so much focus on Drummond because he's the one that people want to bring, but this, is such the sad part of this case. These four people who lost their lives. What has stood out to you about them, who they were, just from speaking with people who knew them?
Um, what stands out is it's a tragedy. There's no way around it. Even family has told me that at least two of the victims were involved in these kind of illegal activities. But what stands out for me is their deaths as young as they were, and regardless of what they were doing, nobody should have been their judge, jury, and executioner.
Bert, I know law enforcement has said that Austin Drummond had a family connection to these four victims, but you've been talking to family members and have reported what the connection actually is. What are some of the specifics about how he knew these people?
The specific, according to family members, is that he is the significant other. I don't know if he was truly married to the eldest victim's sister, the deceased grandmother's sister. He is listed in the obituary of the grandmother of the eldest deceased victim. That's a very confusing way to say that.
Right. Well, I think like part of this story too is because the maternal grandmother in this case, she's only 38 years old. And so
Yes.
that's something
Yes.
where, and that's just kind of something as we're trying to piece together. I remember the first time I read this story, and this was before Austin Drummond was part of it, and we're trying to figure out what
Hmm.
happened. It was difficult to like kind of piece together everything from the family
Right.
members. I mean, what since they somewhat knew Austin Drummond, um, and yeah, he spent time, a good amount of time behind bars. But like, what did they
Right.
say about him?
They seem to just be focused on the fact that he was released on uh, $30,000 bond after his incarceration, and that this didn't happen to their family. That's where they seem to focus with when we talk.
Bert, I know that he was out on bond. It was $30,000. Certainly, there was some shock when you're accused of attempted murder and then you're let out on bond because a lot of times that's no bail, and then it's $30,000. What do you make of that?
I'm familiar with this judge from other cases, and my first thought was when true bills are brought to the judge's desk from the circuit court clerk's office, they're just in a stack. And it's more or less a procedural just to go down and set bonds. I'm just assuming that there was no connect between the district attorney's office or other people to tell the judge we need to set this one higher. It may sound terrible, but maybe someone they just when you look at these indictments, I just picked them up. It doesn't give you any clue who this person is, and it's important to remember that Austin Drummond wasn't known in Lake County. He was known in Madison County. So my assumption is that it was just looked at as another piece of prison violence.
Burton, at the news conference, they didn't give us a timeline of what happened. That hasn't been released as of yet. But in their answers, it seems like the baby was left on the front lawn of the house in Dyer County. Uh, and that happened after the four people were killed. Based on what you've gathered, what do you believe the timeline to be of what happened on Tuesday?
Well, in talking with victim Matthew Wilson's family, last spoke to them approximately 6:30 a.m. and they've told me he really enjoyed his job. He was going to go get his wife and child and then take a nap to go back to work at I believe it was a steel mill, and they didn't hear from him. So they started looking for them, and nobody could find any of the victims. So there was a concern growing, and when the child was found, it it pretty much gave them their worst fears that something had happened.
Hmm. And for you just being in Lake County, for people who have never been to Lake County or that part of Tennessee, like how would you characterize and describe that area to people who haven't been there but are now hearing about it for the first time?
Lake County is rural. It's extremely rural. It looks to be an agricultural center. It's cornfields, cotton, things like that. But the most significant feature that most people would think about when they think about here is the Reelfoot Lake and its proximity to the Mississippi River.
And how does that compare? I know there's a lot of talk now about Jackson, Tennessee, which is where a lot of the search has taken place. What is that community like?
Oh, it's completely a 180. That's completely an urban center, one of the largest cities in Tennessee.
And that's where Austin Drummond, it appears that he lived. I'm not saying her name on camera because she hasn't been named by law enforcement, but there's been a lot of
Mhm.
chatter about his significant other, a
Yes.
woman who was seen on social media. And if she's named in connection to anything, then I'll start saying her name, but just to not kind of add to that. And I know you were talking about that on your Facebook page as well. What do we know
Mhm.
about her?
Just basically what we know about her is she is the sister to the eldest deceased woman, the grandmother of the child. That's pretty much what we know about her.
And do we know anything more about his family? I know he had some, the DA talked about like, and he's in pictures on Facebook with what appears to be like a father figure, but is there any idea of whether they're cooperating?
Uh, from all aspects, they seem to be completely cooperative. The TBI and other agents stopped at their house. I was told that are cooperating fully, that they gave access to their phones. Apparently, the phones are all on one bill. So they're they were there to serve a warrant, but they just handed them things, is what they told me. So they're cooperating fully.
And then just with where you've been, whether it's Lake County or Dyer County, I mean, is the law enforcement presence felt in that area? Like, is it more visual in terms of seeing TBI and then some of the other agencies that are involved?
Oh, absolutely. On my way up this morning to document the crime scene and those things, I saw a tremendous amount of Lake County, Dyer County, and coming through Jackson, Madison County, and Jackson PD.
What has stood out to you with some of the radio communications that are circulating related to this?
Well, since we're all looking for small details, the thing that stood out to me the absolute most was when the vehicles were recovered, the trooper made a reference to a family member that is deceased has located the vehicles. That leads us to believe that in the midst of this entire search for missing individuals, somebody in the family knew to go to a very remote location that only somebody familiar with what was going on inside that family dynamic would go to.
That's fascinating. Yeah, and is there anybody who's, because I know we were talking about Drummond's family cooperating. Is there anybody you've heard of who is not cooperating with the investigation?
I have not. It seems like everybody is doing what they can to bring Austin Drummond into custody.
What does the crime scene look like?
It's a dirt road. It goes about 2 miles back into what I would just call the woods. It's bordered by a lake at the end, a dense tree line on each side. About a mile down the road, there is a what I would call a pull off or a place to maybe put a boat in. The vehicles were located there. and the bodies were located a short distance away, or I'm told.
So they weren't in the car at
I,
the time
I'm,
they were,
I am told they were not.
or not. Okay. Well, Burton Staggs, thank you. I know it's been a busy couple of days for you, and continues to be covering this story. Thank you for joining us on Law and Crime. We appreciate it.
Always enjoy doing Law and Crime.
Again, before we go, a picture of Austin Drummond on your screen. If you have information on where he is, contact the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Their tip line is 1-800-TBI-FINE. That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. We'll see you next time.